Okay, so I think the thing I'm most curious to ask you about is you play a pretty mean villain named Teddy, funny enough. How do you go about making somebody like that not come off as a caricature? Because I thought it was an interesting approach was how quiet you played it. You know, not really hammy or scenery chewing. It was much more grounded, so he felt real and he felt scarier. How do you go about creating a character like that and kind of departing from the norm?
You want to get inside his head. You want to get inside how he thinks, what he thinks about as many things as possible. So try and find his primary psychology, and then articulate that physically and vocally. And then have a good time playing with it, because if you become too scientific, then it can become what one wants to avoid, caricature. And also being allowed to do it in the hands of Antoine and everybody else that was working on the film and working opposite Denzel. Yeah, you know, like it all throws into the mix. But the psychological was the most important. And then also, how does it feel? How does it sound? And to get out of the way of too many cliches. But then cliches are quite useful sometimes too, because cliches are what they are because they're truths.
Yeah.
But you don't want to make it too overwrought either. And just to come off the line of the Russian thing too, you know, a little bit, and to seat him as a human being.
The tattoos help?
Yeah. Although I didn't actually wear those for too long. You know, but it was nice to know that they were underneath.
Sure.
Because he was all very elegant and you know, coiffured and tied, and even down to, you know, cufflinks and everything. And I remember once seeing I'm digressing now, but I once saw a tattoo convention. I saw a photograph of an old man with his legs crossed in an armchair, leather armchair, having a cup of tea, in the suit and tie and everything. And then the photograph next to him was he was tattooed from head to toe, and it was like, oh, that was such a beautiful image. It's like this picture of conservatism and the picture of what some would call, you know, liberalism, radicalism, and to have the notion that all these tattoos were underneath was a little bit like Teddy himself, whereby he was presenting a very charming, kind of charm to the world where it was appropriate, and underneath there was this festering viper's nest. So.
What was it like the first time you got to look at yourself in the mirror wearing all those tattoos after having them put on? Were you kind of taken aback a little bit?
No, it made me think maybe I should. Yeah, maybe I should go forward with the idea of getting tattoos. Yeah, I've thought about that for 100 years, but I'd end up looking like that. So it's good, but it's not so good for an actor.
One of the interesting things that I liked about your character was I felt that he was kind of engaged by McCall, that he kind of liked the game that he was playing with him, because he was kind of bored, maybe.
Yeah. Very intrigued with McCall, and also took great delight in what he was doing. Was fascinated. And probably felt like, oh, he's a kind of a friend.
Well, it felt like you guys could have been friends, almost, in a different life.
Yes, yeah, and Antoine was very keen to nurture that too. So I also think that sociopaths, by definition, they genuinely feel that they're doing something good for the other person. I mean, they're you know, from their egocentric perspective.